has a pretty rough history when it comes to either buffing things, buffing them not enough, reworking exotics as a whole, but every once in a while they get it just right. And sometimes that just right is really, really strong. So is the case for Point Contact Cannon Brace, which we're going to be making a build with today. This exotic, since its buff, has been one of the top exotics for Arc Titans, which is great because it used to be really, really bad. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers, so keep hitting that subscribe button if you want to keep coming back for more. And let's have a quick word from our sponsor. The exotic we're going to be talking about today is Point Contact Cannon Brace, which comes with probably the coolest sounding exotic trait in the game, Hammer of the Gods. Defeating targets with your Thunderclap melee restores melee energy. Targets near you when you use your Thunderclap suffer lightning strikes and become jolted. Being amplified increases the damage of these lightning strikes. Honestly, it really is as cool as it sounds. However, it used to not be like this. Back when this exotic came out, it couldn't fight its way out of a paper bag, and now it's the guy she tells you to not worry about, and worry you should, because it is really that good. The amount of generation you get to your melee is based on what tier of enemy you kill, with the lowest being like thralls and general trash ads giving you back 9% per kill, all the way up to bosses giving us back 50% per kill. The lightning strikes it generates can clear whole rooms even on Master Nightfall, and I will be definitely testing this in Grandmaster to see it can still hold up with the increased health per enemy. Also, while we are amplified, we get that 50% damage increase to the lightning strikes. Now, I mentioned its ad clearing potential, but I didn't realize how good it was. While using this build and getting the footage you're seeing in the background for Disgraced, I was able to clear whole rooms through walls. It was insanely good, and is probably one of the best Arc Titan exotics we currently have in the game. As for weapons, you can use whatever Arc weapons you want to play back into this build. However, a weapon I have really enjoyed for this build, and most of my Arc builds in general this season, is good old Thunderlord. This exotic machine gun is amazing in endgame and hits hard, and hits even harder in Arc Surge environments, as well as having the ability to overload champions with its exotic trait, Rain Havoc. Final blows with this weapon generate stunning lightning strikes from above, strong against overload champion. These lightning strikes are good at just clearing rooms and even damaging bosses with one of its traits, lightning rounds. This weapon fires faster and more accurately the longer the trigger is held. Continuous damage generates stunning lightning strikes. With the continuous damage against bosses and champions causing that lightning strike adds a lot of damage with this weapon, and this bad boy can fire for a very long time with the addition of its catalyst Return Stroke. Causing a lightning strike with this weapon partially reloads the magazines from reserves. With all these things combined, Thunderlord has become an extremely fun and extremely useful weapon in endgame style content, and at one time it was the DPS meta due to it double critting the div bubbles. However, even though that has been fixed, it is still an amazing option to use, especially in Nightfall and Grandmaster content. For our artifact, we're going to take our normal setup for an Arc build this season, and we're going to start with the Arc and melee authorization mod unlocks to make these mods much cheaper for our build. We are then going to take electric armor to stay amplified longer while our Arc subclass is equipped. This will allow us to stay amplified for 20 seconds to take advantage of the bonus we get from that, as well as our next mod, Thunderous Retort, which grants bonus Arc super damage if cast while critically wounded or while amplified, and lasts until the end of super activation. Since we'll be easily amplified from our class setup, we can take advantage of this bonus damage for our Thunder Crash to make it hit harder and vaporize champions and chunk bosses. Next we have Amped Up, which is gain damage resistance while amplified. This resistance is very nice to have and has saved me quite often. Now I know this perk and electric armor's name should be a switch. It's currently a bug that they are named like so we're just going to roll with it until it is fixed. Moving on to our last column, we have Shock and Awe. Arc final blows while you are amplified, summon a burst of lightning that damages and jolts targets. This is one of my favorite artifact perks this season, as any Arc final blow does this, including your Thunderclap with Point Contact Cannon Brace, which will then generate additional lightning strikes, and it is super nice to clear adds, damage, champions, it's really nice. And this leads us to our final perk, which is lightning strikes twice. After throwing an arc grenade, gain increased grenade recharge rate. Arc final blows extend the duration of this benefit. This will help with our grenade generation and ionic trace generation for our class setup, which we're going to start with Touch of Thunder, which will give our grenades extra functionality. I use this for pulse grenades, and with Touch of Thunder, we'll be able to get some extra damage out of them, and we will be able to make ionic traces with them as it hits targets. We're also going to take Knockout, as this build is very heavy melee based, so we can get our health regeneration on melee defeats as well as making ourselves amplified, and it will increase our melee range and damage as well. Moving on to our fragments, we're going to start with Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage with a +10 to strength. This is one of our best fragments on our arc subclass, as this resistance is super helpful and it stacks with the resistance we will get from the artifact, making us all that bit more tanky while we just run whatever content you want to run. We also are going to have Spark of Shock. Your arc grenades jolt targets with a -10 to discipline. Jolt is still super good even after the nerfs it got at the beginning of the season, and it will give our grenades the ability to stun Overlord champions by jolting them. In addition, with Touch of Thunder, letting them do more damage is a very nice bonus, which leads us to our next fragment, Spark of Magnitude. Your lingering arc grenades, lightning, pulse, and storm grenades have extended duration. Simply put, our pulse grenades will last longer, meaning more jolt, more damage, and more ionic traces to feed back into our build and our abilities. The final fragment we're going to look at is Spark of Feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage with a +10 to resistance. This is a 75% damage increase to our outgoing melee damage by getting hit. And I know I charged Thunderclap while Thalls were rushing me, let them get one swipe, and laid waste to all of them with that increased damage. Was it overkill? Absolutely. But we can use this to easily clear those trash adds, get our melee energy back, and if anything bigger is around, they too will feel the fall of the hammer. With us wanting to get more out of our melee, that leads us to our armor mod setup, which starts with our helmet. We have double hands on because this is a very heavy melee based build. We will get more super from melee defeats and take advantage of the bonus super damage from Thunderous Retort with our Thunder Crash, and the lightning strikes from our Thunderclap count for this mod as well. However, we get much less super back from the lightning strike defeats. We also have Arc Siphon, so we can make orbs with whatever arc weapon you want to run with this build, feeding back into our super and our other armor mods we're going to be looking at. On our arms, we're going to run heavy-handed, so we can make orbs with our Thunderclap, and even our normal melees when we are amplified. Impact Induction, so we can get some extra grenade energy back on melee hits, and we have Melee Kickstart, as even though we get melee energy back on defeats, we aren't going to be always maximizing returns from bosses and mini-bosses, so with this, we can get more out of it while clearing out those trash adds for the 9% they give, on top of whatever you consume for your armor charge stacks. On our chest, we have Charged Up for more stacks of armor charge, and the resist mods that you can change out for whatever you want to run. On our legs, we're going to have stacks on stacks, so orbs count as 2 stacks of armor charge over the normal one. I ran a double stack of Invigoration for extra melee energy. However, you can swap these for anything you want, whether it be grenade energy or even your health based orb pickup mods. Either one work really good. I ran Invigoration for, again, that extra melee energy. On our mark, we're going to start with Powerful Attractor. So when we use our class ability, we pick up orbs that are close to us. I found this to be extremely good as I use the booster class ability on my Arc Titan. We also have Reaper, so when we use our class ability, we can make an orb when we get a defeat with a weapon. And finally, we have an extra mod slot that you can use for whatever you want. I used Outreach again for that extra melee energy, but if you want to play more into grenades, throw in Bomber, throw in whatever you want in this slot. Does not have to be Outreach, it's just a floating mod slot for whatever, which is really nice to have for a build like this where there are many options. With that is the end of our video. I actually had a really fun time making this build, even though I know Titan videos don't do so good on the channel. This was a build I was really excited to make for a long time. So hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Like, comment, and subscribe, as again, it helps out a ton. As of making this video, we are at 770. We are so close to 1,000. So subscribing will mean the absolute world to me. So please consider doing so if you aren't already. And I will see you guys in the next video.